Dark Souls 3's been out a while, and you might think that you know everything about it, but don't underestimate the depth of what this community can discover. That sound you heard at the start, that was a voice clip from the dance's opening cutscene, but reversed. And only less than a week ago, Reddit user Center noticed that reversing the dance's sound clips reveal their haunting original sound. Honestly, I'm surprised they didn't use these sounds instead. Next, there are two versions of the Handmaiden in the two variations of Firelink Shrine, one in our Lightened Shrine and another in the Dark Shrine, which is connected to the rest of the overworld. And the question is, are they the same person? And if they are, is one in the past and another in the present? Well, if you talk to the Untended Graves Handmaiden before you talk to our one, then our Handmaiden recognizes us and gives a tiny bit of unique dialogue at the start.
Oh, thou'rt... Oh no, 'tisn't anything, Ashen One. I am but a humble handmaid of the shrine.
So, this makes it clear that they're the same person, right? And it also lends credit to the theory that the Darkened Shrine appears in the past, because she recognizes us.
Remember well, I am undead, bound forever by the shrine's curse.
The shrines are intriguing, and there is a lot more to say, so I'll try to make a video on this area soon. The earliest mention I found of this is on Integer's YouTube channel, so credit to him for recording it for sure. One thing sold by the Handmaiden is the Budding Green Blossom, which becomes available for 10 souls when you get to the part of Cirrus's questline where she goes to kill Hodrick. The interesting thing isn't that it's 10 souls, it's that it has an extra sentence in its description that all the others don't have. It reads, "Goodbye, dear grandmother. I will visit grandfather in the pit of hollows." And if you look closely, you'll see that these flowers are tied with some string like a bouquet. This might be common knowledge at this point, but I came across this discovery when Jackmon777 tweeted the hidden sentence at me, and I couldn't find it in any description I looked at, until I looked on the Fextralife wiki and it had all the information there. So, does this make the Handmaiden the grandmother in the description? Or was this bouquet something that the Handmaiden stripped from a grave outside the shrine? She does have a habit of accumulating armor sets from corpses, after all. For number 4, I love the discussion that came from the threads made by Ethermoth and Doffymum, who put forward that each of the unkindled NPCs in Dark Souls 3 have a link to a Lord of Cinder, Arnri to Aldrich, Sigurd to Yorm, and Hawkwood to his legion. We've talked before about how it's an unkindled's duty to place the cinders of lords upon their thrones, and each unkindled is somehow invested in the death of their corresponding lord. The fourth lord, of course, are the twin princes, and it's not too far-fetched to think that we are their corresponding unkindled, risen along with the others as those with the highest chance to uphold their duty and bring the lords we're associated with to their thrones. You should really check out the discussion going on in the link in the description, because there is a lot more to be said on this topic. I think it's an awesome discovery. Also in Firelink Shrine, have you ever had the Firekeeper turn away from you? This happens if you wear the Untrue Dark Ring or the Untrue White Ring, which are rings that reference the deeply detested hollows of Londor. So, is she turning away from you in disgust? This was first posted about by Saviour G, and then again by Skiritai6 with more proof. I tested it too, and I could never get the Firekeeper to turn away without the ring on and without being hollowed. So, It's undeniable, I think, that this turn has something to do with the rings, and perhaps with the hollows of Londor as well, right? So let me know if she exhibits this exact same behavior for you guys as well. It'd be good to get some more tests out there, I think, because some people have been reporting that she turns away without the rings on for them, but I could never get her to do it without the rings. 6 is probably the biggest longshot on the list, but I still think it has merit to it. 3 months ago, Chronos Trinity pointed out that the Shrine Handmaid has unique dialogue for the Dream Chaser's ashes, which are the ashes that you found atop Farron Keep, behind the illusory wall, and he or she also points out that the hand in these ashes clutches a pendant.
Ashen one, what woeful umbral ash is this? This barren dust, stuff of a fool, won't yield aught. Clinging to lofty dreams in this dying world, more's the pity. It must come from one most foolish indeed.
In Dark Souls 1, finding meaning for this pendant starting item became this long-running challenge and then joke of the series, because the series creator Miyazaki mentioned that he liked to select the pendant himself personally, and later he admitted that the pendant was a bit of a prank intended to keep players guessing at its purpose, for in this game full of secrets, how could such a thing be meaningless, right? So, is the Handmaiden poking fun at whoever's clutching the pendant? Are the creators making fun of us for clinging to these lofty dreams? Number 7 is a relatively recent discovery for how amazing it is. So around 3 weeks ago, user Scarecrow13 over on the Fextralife forum posted this exhaustive breakdown of how he deciphered the runes upon the Titanite slab in Dark Souls 3, and his interpretation is that every symbol line describes a different historical age in the series. He roughly translates line 1 to "The meek sought God / the divine in the trees. Yggdrasil, the tree of life, bestowed the gifts of plenty, joy, and health." Line 2, "They remained, and hardship set in. They found a spark, which turned into a sun, driving away the cold and the ice. Terrible trouble came. The sun ended this conflict." Line 3, "This age continued and began an era of wealth and plenty. Man will ascend, cold and ice will return." Scarecrow stresses that there is a great deal of personal bias involved in anyone's interpretation of these runes and these symbols, including his own bias, so I really encourage you to read his article on the topic because your interpretation serves a really big part in this as well. It's crazy that this could go undiscovered for so long. Moving on, did you ever do a visceral attack on one of the Pontiff's beasts, but not finish it off when it was vulnerable? The first post I can find on this is by GNLink34, whose post got a ton of attention about 3 months ago. To me, more than anything, this helps cement Pontiff Sullivan's character, because he was the one responsible for these beings becoming this way. He was a tyrant, a man with twisted morals who transformed his own men into these beasts, and yet it's clear that some of these beasts' humanity, it still remains, and they are either begging for mercy here, or they're praying in desperation. The next thing is that Anri has a unique piece of dialogue and interaction if you execute Horus while they're along the path of sacrifices.
"Oh, Horus, why? Don't leave me. Not you. Not like the others. Oh, Horus. Horus."
That's going to be in the Prepare to Cry script.
"Oh, Horus. Everyone, forgive me. I was weak on my own."
And finally, something I wish I knew in my last video. The comment section caught me up on this. So there's this statue in Lower Lothric, and user Hutoto points out the links between it and Pontiff Sullivan. First, this statue holds the profaned greatsword, which is a weapon wielded by Sullivan, and this weapon also references him when he was still a young sorcerer. Second, the bracelet that the statue has is the same as the bracelet on Sullivan's right arm. And you might think, okay, a few reused assets, big deal, From does this all the time, but this statue linking Lothric and young Sullivan, it's a huge deal. If you watched the Angels video, then you'll know that I talked a lot about how the Lothric bloodline and the sorcerers of the Grand Archives rose together. They were very close, and I also said that the first of the scholars played a part in convincing the young Lord Lothric against the linking of the flame. And the Pontiff is this character that really does go against the linking of the flame as well. So he's a huge candidate for being the first of the scholars, this character who convinced Lothric not to link the fire. And additionally, the Pontiff's gear looks a lot like the Candlestick Scholars of the Grand Archives, so it seems pretty clear to me that Sullivan might be responsible for convincing Lothric not to link the fire, and that he might be very much responsible for the defection of the Deacons of the Deep away from the Way of White, for the fall of Lothric's bloodline, and basically for most of the events in the game. Before you go, I've got one thing to ask of you guys, and it's not to like this video, it's instead to go and send some love and some friendly mail to the people I featured in this video, to read their contributions, and to continue supporting the incredible discoveries of everybody in this community, because I'm just happy I can be a platform to display and discuss some of this stuff. Also, why the fuck is there a crab in the ball?